Last week we talked about the factors that make a strong brand, and one of the things that I talked about was consistency. Now, something that I use to help me with my consistency in my business is a brand guide. It's something that I can go back to again and again to re-inspire myself and remind myself of my own brand. So today I want to talk to you about how you can create your own brand guide. Hi, I'm Colette Broomhead and this is Business Class Monday. So let's talk practicalities. What can you use to create your brand guide? Well, of course, that's down to you and what you find easiest to work with. You might just want to use pen and paper. For me, I tend to do all my rough writing and note-taking with pen and paper, but then when I want to create a final version of something, I tend to do it digitally. And my brand guide is in Evernote. If you haven't heard of Evernote, go and take a look. It's brilliant. It's like an online notebook and I love it. But other options are perhaps Trello or Pinterest. You could just use a Word document or Excel. And of course, if you prefer to have things physically there, then pen and paper, perhaps creating a big chart or vision board, whatever works best for you and whatever you feel most comfortable with. Now, when we talked about what makes a strong brand last week, we talked about the different factors, and I think those factors create excellent sections for your brand guide. So that's how I'm going to break it down for you today. But of course, again, you need to find what works best for you. This is just an example of what I do. So for section 1, you could talk about your brand words and characteristics. We talked about how your brand is your business personality. And so what helps a lot is to come up with 2 or 3 characteristics that you want your brand personality to have. The way I did this was to ask my friends and family on Facebook to describe me in 3 words. And then I looked at those words and I decided which ones I resonated with me most, and of course which ones came up the most often. Sometimes you might be surprised. So it's a really interesting exercise to do. For me, the words that came up most often were happy, excited, and caring. And so those are my brand words, and that's what I try to express in my brand personality. The second section might be your brand beliefs. What do you stand for? What do you want people to know about you, about your standpoint and why you're doing what you're doing, perhaps? So for me, I started my business because I realised that I was working my 9 to 5 and I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I was just doing it through this sense of duty, and it meant that I wasn't seeing my family and I wasn't getting time to do the things that I really enjoyed. So for me, one of my brand beliefs is life's too short not to spend it doing the things that you love. Which brings me to section 3, your brand story. Now, we'll be talking about your brand story in more detail next week, but this is where you get a chance to tell people why you're doing what you're doing, why you believe what you believe. People love people, and so being able to tell your brand story makes your brand stand out and helps people to connect with you. Section 4 is where I talk about how my brand appears. So this is how, like when we were going back to the personalities, how you dress. So things like your brand colours. So you might want to choose colours that match the brand characteristics that we talked about earlier. So for me, my brand colours are yellow, which is a happy sort of sunny colour, pink, which is vibrant and exciting, and blue, which is a kind of calmer and more caring colour. So choose the colours that most fit with your brand personality, and then keep those colours consistent throughout your website, your emails, and anything that you do for your brand. It's not just colours though. You could pick specific fonts that you will use so that wherever people view your content, it still looks consistent. They can tell it's come from you. Brand images. Is there any particular image that you want people to associate with you? Of course, your logo, but anything else that you might want people to associate with you. For example, Apple and the apple. And there are lots of other examples too. For me, I picked a balloon. You'll see in my logo that there's a little balloon, and I try and sort of sprinkle little images of balloons throughout my social media and other areas. The reason for that is that I see balloons as something that are fun and happy and uplifting, and I want my business to do just that, to be fun, to make marketing more fun, and to help you lift up your business. So I thought for my business that was a great image. So have a think about what might work for your business. Section 5 might be about your brand voice. So you've got your brand personality. How will you express that? What will your tone be like? So you could either find examples from elsewhere or just keep examples in your brand guide that you can go back to remind yourself of how you want to express something. So you might want to come across as bubbly and excited, or you might want to come across as, quite corporate, or you might want to come across as fairly introvert, a bit, just whatever matches your brand characteristics. But sometimes you need to be re-inspired about how to do that. You can forget. You want that to shine through. So not that you're writing in a way that's not natural to you, but that in a way where your natural personality is shining through all the time in everything that you do. So that's a great place to go to remind yourself of how to do that. Section 6, this is where I keep a list of my favourite brands that I really connect with, and the things about those brands that I connect with, because perhaps there are things in other brands that you can learn from and that you can take ideas from for your own brand. So it can be really useful to study other brands that you love and keep a list of them to go back and have a look at whenever you need re-inspiring. So you may decide that there are other sections to be part of your brand, but those are just a few examples from what I use in my own brand guide. At the end of this month, I'm going to be doing a 7-day brand challenge. And if you decide to sign up for that, then I will send you a template for a brand guide that you can use. In the meantime, on Thursday, I'll be doing a live Q&A in Business Class, my Facebook group. I hope you can join us there. If you're not already a member of the group, then you can subscribe and I'll send you an email invite. And to subscribe, you can just use the link up there. Life's too short not to spend it doing the things that you love. I'll see you next week.